Oh, really? Now, from this 15 minutes on? Let's just see a stream.
Yeah, that was Western State. Well, we were in Connecticut, and like Arizona's 22.
What's up, gasoline?
Oh, that's great. How are you?
Really? And then news reporters can come out.
I'm here today because I have many questions about what is happening with the environment and in my own little village. There are different resolutions that have come to pass, and I'm concerned about them.
Planetary concerns. Hello, thank you for coming. Hi. Welcome.
I'm all for, climate change, but I don't think it's realistic the way they're talking about it. It's an impossible thing to do. I just don't think it makes any sense to try to stop using all the other things, gas and.
My name's Mark. I'm happy to admit that. So I really want to see, is there actually some real consciousness here? And I am actually really curious to hear what people have to say here, because when I watched the last video from last month, I was just stunned.
Oh, we're going to call out people on their assertions. That's
and
it.
This is apolitical. We're all affected by it.
Well, Gore says the oceans are boiling. I haven't seen it yet.
Well,
except where they blew up the pipeline.
Exactly, Nord Stream pipeline. That's boiling. We need to have the conversation. And what happened that we can't have the conversation anymore?
How are you guys today?
Great, how are you? It's nice to see you. I recognize you from...
I know it. And those people are here.
Listen, I've been a forestry and environmental guy all my life, but the reality is that right now some of the principles of forestry, environmental philosophy, as well as science are being violated in a political way, and there are other ways to do things other than force people to not use wood stoves. I would like to see a real conversation develop around what sustainability really is, and the ways in which the philosophy and the attitude matter as much as the technology. And I think it's really important for people to actually have the conversation face to face, because people are really getting hardened in their ideas of what is true, what is right, what is environmental, what is climate sensitive, and these are important conversations, and they can't be settled by just saying the science says this. We definitely have a problem. We need to have a more extensive conversation.
Thank you for being here. My name is Holly Tanner, and while not the organizer of this event, I was asked by a group of community-minded individuals to host and be the MC. And let me preface this by saying that I am not here in my official capacity. I am the county clerk. This is not an official county-sponsored event. I am here as Holly Tanner, a person, a member of this community. To help, thank you. I want to ask a question right now. Please raise your hand if you care about the environment and you understand climate. Please raise your hand. Care about the environment. Okay, good. So we're all on the same page. That's exciting, isn't it?
So I'm talking about the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act and New York's energy future, which I think is a very problematic future with the direction that we're going. It's not that I oppose these goals. I have problems with the timelines that have been imposed, because these are politically chosen timelines that don't really have any relation to either whether they're financially feasible or whether they're technologically feasible. As things stand right now, we do not look as though we're going to achieve these goals unless things change dramatically. All right, but here's the real problem. Mega projects. How many have heard the term mega projects? Anybody? These are projects that cost billions of dollars, take years to develop, and are socially transformative. Right? And here's what we know about mega projects. They always come in over time and over budget, over and over. I'm going to say Climate Act, it's easy. If the Climate Act comes in just 2 times over budget, then all the benefits will be wiped out. And this is the rule of thumb for assessing mega projects, to assume they're going to come in at least 2 times over budget, because that is the norm. Sometimes they come in 3, 4, 5, even 10 times over budget. Now, this may seem like I'm being too simple, but this is, in fact, the research on it. This is very reliable. Only about 1% actually come in on time, on budget, and with the estimated benefits. What I'm trying to emphasize is the odds that this will come in on budget and produce the kind of benefits that we're being told it will is not very likely at all. It's not that the benefits aren't real, they are. It's that, like with any benefits, it's possible to pay more than they're worth. And then you're losing money. That money you spend could be spent much better, more productively on other items. The line down at the bottom, that's the wind. On that particular day, wind was declining right in the late afternoon and early evening. This is the highest peak period of the day, when everybody goes home from work, turns on their lights, starts up their stoves, turns on the TV, and so on. Maybe takes a hot shower. This is when electricity demand peaks, and some days wind is going strong in the afternoon, right? It's not always declining in the afternoon, but some days it basically disappears in the afternoon. Solar also declines in the late afternoon, and in winter in particular, when we're going to need that electricity for space heating, the sun goes down at 4:30, you're not going to get any solar power after that. And when we have a big snowstorm, I fail to understand how somewhere between 6 inches and 6 feet of snow on top of the solar panel allows the sunlight to get through. Solar is great during the middle of the day. Unfortunately, demand actually reduces between the morning and the afternoon during the middle of the day. So that's when we tend to get more solar than we need sometimes. Then when we need it in the early morning, late afternoon, it's not always available. And sometimes the weather just makes it unavailable. Right? We don't control the weather. The independent system operator estimates that because of these problems of unreliability of wind and solar, in the future we're looking at missing 10% of our needed energy production across the year. Now 10%, that's not going to be on a daily basis, but if it was, that would be equal to going without enough energy 2.5 days, or 2.5 hours per day. Or you might say something like, it's about almost 2 months a year. There will be days, weeks, or even longer where renewable resources are not sufficient to meet our needs. That's what was approved by the Climate Action Council. I like to think about worst case scenarios. They rarely come true, but when they do, catastrophe can strike. This is a map of the August 2003 Northeast power blackout. 50 million people lost power, some just for a few minutes, some for hours, some for days. Now, this was August. It was hot. I'm going to guarantee you, we didn't back then tend to estimate these things very carefully, but I'm going to guarantee you, people died. And it's going to be mostly old people living in old houses without air conditioning. What if that had been winter? My belief is we need to continue to pay attention to reliability. Reliability of electricity supply is job one. It keeps people alive. There is no advanced economy that functions well without reliable energy. If you don't have reliable energy, you're a developing country, or you hope you're developing. I know this isn't going to be popular with some people, but we need to support continued permitting of fossil fuel plants until such time as we can replace them with reliable alternatives. We have to let the technology, its feasibility, and its cost drive the pace at which we advance. There's no other realistic way to do it except to harm people by lack of electricity.
I'm here today to tell you about our group and also to talk about Shepherd's Run, which is a 60 megawatt industrial scale solar energy facility proposed for the town of Copiague. I'll be talking about the major issues that we see with the project and why New York State laws and policy regarding this project are a problem. We had a lot of questions about Shepherd's Run, and we weren't really getting clear answers. From the beginning, and I'll say this again, we've acknowledged that climate change is a serious problem and that development of solar is part of the solution. But we grew concerned that this project was coming together in Copiague. It seemed to be much more about maximizing profits for the developer and not so much about respecting our local community and laws. Really what's happening is a green gold rush, with private developers running around grabbing as much land as they can so they can take advantage of laws that benefit them and maximize their profits. And when this project first started getting going, it was right around the time of COVID, so it was a scary time. People were just focused on COVID. So a big task of ours was getting people's attention and getting the word out about the project. In a nutshell, it's a proposed 60 megawatt industrial scale solar energy project. It will fill an entire valley in Prairieville. It will have 220,000 motor-driven solar panels on 265 acres. The private for-profit developer is Hecate Energy, based in Chicago and owned by Repsol, which is Spain's national oil company. The project will be sited on prime farmland, which will be removed from use for the life of the project. In fact, 85% of the project footprint is agricultural land, with mineral soil groups 1 through 4. It sprawls across highways, around roads, through neighborhoods, up hillsides, and around streams and creeks. All the blue areas on this map that you see are wetlands that are protected. The town has a law that says you can't build within 100 feet of water, but the developer wants that waived so they can put in more panels and drill underneath for their underwater cables. The site will surround the Niver Cemetery on Route 23. This cemetery is one of the oldest in the county and contains the graves of Revolutionary War soldiers. There's also an historic site connected with the Mohican Indians within the project area. The bottom line is you'd be hard-pressed to find an area that is less conducive to putting in a solar facility. So why did Hecate choose this location? Basically 2 reasons. One, most of the acreage is controlled by one owner, and that parcel sits across the street from the substation that's in Prairieville. Then there's talk about, well, we're not really taking farmland away because in 20 years when the project is over, we're going to decommission the whole project and everything will just go back to being farmland. Okay, first of all, that's not happening. What farmer is going to wait around for 20 years so they can go back to farm the land? And my question is, in 20 years, aren't we still going to need renewable energy? So why would we be taking these panels away and putting it back to farmland? It doesn't make any sense. Once the project goes in, it's not going to be farmland ever.
I feel very strongly that Albany doesn't care about your communities. They don't care about your children. There are so many safety concerns about some of these initiatives. One of the things that wasn't mentioned before was a mandate for electric school buses, that all the school buses must be electric starting in 2027.
I think gas is a problem, would be a problem in the future as well. Is the Empire Center, are you advocating for a carbon fee?
Making the public aware of the choices that they are making, and that, for example, the companies that they are buying products from are making.
And I think there's some very good questions about what happens if we cover all these thousands, tens of thousands.
I have a question for you. In the lawsuit that Copiague filed against Morris,
You're the presenter. Answer the question.
I have a question.
Only enrich some individual landowners. They don't help a built community. And it's about our communities that we're trying to protect. Engage on bills and initiatives in front of the legislature and support the activities of member organizations of local governments for interaction, shared documents, shared strategies, and shared experiences.
The propane industry funder's purpose is to discredit our entire climate law when you claim your mission is only about keeping solar farms.
So can you please help me understand who's behind this event? have to ask Holly that. I mean, Holly, who's behind the event?
A group of concerned citizens who wanted to get information out to the public. It was a group of
So you don't know?
organizers. What's that?
You don't know who's behind this?
Well, if they're here.
There's one back there, there's one back there. They're all here. And they're from Columbia County.
I think it's worth noting that one of the concerns that came up in our group very often is a future concern, and it's a food security concern. And I think there's some very good questions about what happens if we cover all these thousands, tens of thousands of acres of farmland.
All right, I'm not going to stand up here and deny climate change and pretend it's not a problem. It's a real problem. But globally, humanity is going to be much wealthier in the future. We're not at risk. The difference, they estimate, will be that if we act on climate change, we'll be about 5% wealthier.
Well, we just had such an electrifying event today, and it was just amazing to see there were so many different points of view and perspectives that were on stage and also in the audience. And I think that's really something we need to move into the future, is these multiple different perspectives, people coming together, people asking the same questions. And it was like, this is the cutting edge, and these are the questions that need to be asked, and it's through discussion that the future can begin to get teased open a little bit more. I think this is really something that is future orientated and future moving. So I think today was a historical day, and I was just really honored and pleased to be here and to witness this event and to see these meetings of all these different kinds of people, because this is how we do it.